Hey everyone, how's it going? Matthew Kadish here, author of the Earthman Jack series and editor-in-chief at dailygeekery.com. And today we're coming at you with a little bit of casting news that some of you might have heard about, but if you are a James Bond fan, you will definitely want to know about this. Basically, James Bond number 25, which is assumed to be the last Daniel Craig James Bond, it's been having a roller coaster of a time leading up to production with problems with casting and actor injuries and stuff like that. But one of the newest pieces of news to come out of the Bond camp is that they have cast a new 007. And this new 007, as you can see here in this report from The Guardian, is a black woman, and not just any black woman. It is Lashana Lynch, who some of you might recognize from the movie Captain Marvel. She was the other test pilot and Brie Larson's character's best friend, who eventually ends up helping her save the world. But she has been cast as the new 007. Now, there is some hubbub about this on the internet in the sense that people are like, oh, you're casting a black woman as James Bond. No, James Bond is still James Bond. It's just that they're making the switch in the sense that the 007 designation is now something that is transferable. So, once James Bond retired at the end of, the last James Bond movie, his 007 designation was then given to a different spy. And that spy is being played by Lashana Lynch. And so in this movie, Bond 25, when Bond comes back out of retirement in order to help MI6 face another threat, he is presented with his new successor, who is a strong black woman, played by Miss Lynch here. And according to this report, she is highly capable. She is very much the bit of super spy that James Bond is. And she's also immune to his charms. They've made it a big point of saying that she is not going to be your typical Bond girl, which means that I guess she doesn't sleep with him in the movie. Although, it could very well be that it's just like a long build up to her finally cracking to James Bond's charms in the end. But from all current reports, she's basically going to be more of a colleague of James Bond rather than your typical Bond girl. So she's not going to be like Halle Berry's Jinx back in, I believe, I forget the Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie that she was in. But, she was kind of the same thing, strong black woman, American spy. At first kind of resisted James Bond, but then eventually ended up becoming his Bond girl for that film. But with this one, they're really harping on the fact that she's a strong, independent black woman who isn't going to be giving way to the typical James Bond seduction methods. And there's even been some speculation that she might actually be a lesbian. So just to cross off all the points on that intersectional checklist that they got going on here, strong black, female, and lesbian could very well be this new 007. But the interesting thing is that this is not replacing James Bond, and I doubt that they're setting her up to kind of take the mantle going forward. I feel like this is just more of the producers kind of pandering to that section of the audience out there that wanted more representation in a Bond film. So rather than, gender swap or race swap the main character or whatever, they decided to add a whole new character to the mix. And I think that that's probably a good way to go about doing it. It's always better to add something new as opposed to changing something that has already been established, at least from a writing point of view, in my opinion. But the interesting thing about this is if we go to this other article, which is, from April of this year, the main producer of the James Bond films, Barbara Broccoli, she's kind of the shot caller. She's the person who basically controls the James Bond IP. She went on record as saying that there won't ever be a female James Bond. And she was very clear on that. She said that James Bond is a man, and she doesn't think that it would be appropriate to, switch that up. Now, she left it open to the idea of James Bond maybe becoming a black person or, changing his race or something along that effect. But she was very adamant that she wanted to keep James Bond as a man. But one of the interesting things about the decision to bring in a new black female 007 is that this was a call made by the new writer that Daniel Craig had Barbara Broccoli bring onto the James Bond 25 script, which some of you might recognize. Basically, her name is Phoebe Waller-Bridge, excuse me. And basically, she played the android L3 in Solo: A Star Wars Story. And if you guys ever saw that movie, you'll know that L3 was basically a thinly veiled feminist allegory. It was a robot who crusaded for robots' rights, and it had a lot of parallels between that and radical feminism, which, in that movie kind of worked in a humorous way, but it turned a lot of people off because it felt like very blatant political messaging. But Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she's also the star of the Amazon original series Fleabag, and she's kind of like a well-known feminist actress and writer and stuff. And so Daniel Craig actually had her brought on to kind of co-write the script for the new Bond film. And this new 007, I think, was basically her brainchild. And obviously it had to be approved by Barbara Broccoli and stuff like that. But overall, this is where this new strong female character is coming from. So I'll be interested to see how big of a role this new 007 is going to be playing in Bond 25. We know that Rami Malek from Mr. Robot is playing the bad guy, and they're even talking about bringing back Christopher Waltz as Blofeld to a certain degree in the film. And we do know that this is probably most likely going to be Daniel Craig's last incarnation of the James Bond role before it's handed off to a brand new actor, because he's been doing it for quite a while now. And the story, we still don't know a lot of details, but it's obvious that James Bond is going to have a partner in this. And the Daniel Craig's James Bond has in the past teamed up with Miss Moneypenny before I guess she became M's secretary. She was a field agent, and we got to see a little bit of that. I believe it was in Quantum of Solstice. Don't quote me on that. But this isn't the first time he's teamed up with sexy women of color to fight evil throughout the world. But it is going to be the first time that we've seen a character like this, and we'll see how they handle it. So what do you guys think about this casting news? Do you think it's controversial? Do you think it's overdue? Let me know in the comments. And be sure to check out dailygeekery.com for more news and entertainment information. This is Matt, and I will see you guys next time.